The water was just the right temperature, the bubbles were fragrant, and for once, the house was silent. I leaned back in the bathtub, letting the tension of the day melt away. My glass of wine balanced precariously on the edge, and in my hand, a trashy romance novel that had no business being this entertaining. I wasn't proud of it, but a story about forbidden love in the royal stables was precisely what I needed. I had just gotten to the part where the prince confessed his love when the door burst open. "Water's dripping into my room!" shouted my stepson, clutching his laptop like it was a life raft. "It's coming from here! The bathtub is cursed!" I sat up, bubbles slipping down my arms as I pulled my knees to my chest. "Couldn't you knock first? You know, basic human decency?" He ignored me, pointing dramatically at the faucet. "This thing is a menace. I told you last week it was making noises. Now it's attacking my gaming setup." I sighed. "It's not cursed, and it's definitely not attacking whatever you're doing down there." But he wasn't listening. He was already on his hands and knees, inspecting the floor tiles like a detective at a crime scene. "There's definitely something weird happening here. What if it's like bad energy? You know, from, stuff?" "What stuff?" I asked, regretting it instantly. "You know." He looked up at me, whispering conspiratorially. "Infidelity." I stared at him. "What are you talking about? Everyone knows bathrooms are where it happens." He continued, completely serious. "Affairs, secrets, scandals, it's all here. And it leaves vibes." "Vibes?" "Yes. Bad ones." "Okay, get out." "Wait." He sprang up, his eyes wide. "Look at this!" Before I could protest, he yanked at a loose towel by the tub. To my surprise, it came off easily, revealing a dusty crevice behind it. He reached in, his arm disappearing to the elbow, and pulled out a soggy, discolored notebook. "What the hell is that?" I asked, suddenly more curious than annoyed. He grinned. "Evidence." "Evidence of what? Per plumbing?" "No, evidence of betrayal." I rolled my eyes, but I couldn't deny the intrigue. The notebook looked ancient, the pages warped and barely legible. He flipped it open, and the smell of mildew filled the room. "Listen to this," he said, clearing his throat dramatically. "July 15th. I couldn't resist his touch. The way his hands moved over the porcelain sink made my knees weak." I blinked. "Is this a diary?" "Of an affair," he declared triumphantly. "Or just a bad attempt at erotica," I said, stifling a laugh. But he was already engrossed, reading aloud with exaggerated enthusiasm. August 3rd. He said he would fix the dripping faucet, but what he really fixed was my broken heart. I snorted. "This is ridiculous." He ignored me, flipping through the pages. "It's all here. Clandestine meetings, stolen kisses, a forbidden romance, in this very bathroom. Or someone was really lonely and had a thing for plumbers," I said, sipping my wine. "Don't you see?" he said, his voice low and urgent. "This isn't just a bathroom. It's a battleground. A place where love and betrayal collide." I burst out laughing. "You're insane." But then he said, "What if this is why the tub is cursed?" I set my glass down, trying to keep a straight face. "Are you seriously suggesting that an affair from decades ago is causing water to drip into your room?" "Yes," he said, without a hint of irony. "And we need to figure out what happened here so we can lift the curse. And how do you propose we do that?" He held up the notebook like it was the Holy Grail. "We read it. Together." I groaned, but there was no talking him out of it. He plopped down on the floor, cross-legged, and started skimming through the diary, muttering under his breath about patterns and symbols. "This is absurd," I said, leaning back in the tub. "You know that, right? Absurd?" He looked up at me, grinning. "You're sitting naked in a tub full of bubbles, drinking wine, while I uncover the secrets of a cursed bathroom. I'd say we're both a little absurd." I couldn't argue with that. He flipped another page, squinting at the warped handwriting. "Listen to this one, September 9th. He fixed the pipe, but broke my resolve. His hands were rough, his intentions rougher. What does that even mean? I tried to stifle a laugh. It means someone had a vivid imagination and a very questionable grasp on metaphor. No, he insisted, jabbing at the page. It means this house was ground zero for some seriously shady stuff. And you're telling me you've never felt anything weird in here? I feel weird now, I muttered, reaching for my wine. Don't play innocent. He pointed dramatically at me, bubbles from the tub clinging to his shirt. You're part of this house's legacy now. You could be continuing the cycle. What cycle? I raised an eyebrow. You know, the betrayal cycle. Oh, for the love of... He cut me off by reading another passage, this time with exaggerated passion. November 3rd. The sound of water dripping in the silence reminded me of him. The way he lingered, the way he trailed off, his face turning red. What? I asked, suddenly intrigued. It gets graphic. I smirked. What, too much for you? No, he said quickly, clearing his throat. It's just not appropriate for me to read aloud. Oh, now you're worried about appropriateness? He ignored me, flipping to another entry. Okay, here's one, December 12th. I told him it was the last time, but when he knelt by the tub, fixing that damn faucet, I knew I'd let it happen again. I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my wine. This woman had a serious plumber fixation. I hope she tipped well. Maybe it wasn't just the plumber, he said, his tone suddenly serious. Oh, don't start with your conspiracy theories. No, think about it, he said, leaning forward. This could have been a whole network of affairs. A love triangle. Or a love hexagon. I stared at him. A love hexagon? Yes. Think about it, different men, different repairs. She calls one for the faucet, another for the tiles, maybe even one for the electrical work. It all fits. You've officially lost it, I said, shaking my head. But he wasn't done. What if this diary isn't just her story? What if it's a guide? A playbook for infidelity? A playbook? I repeated, incredulous. Yeah. Like step 1, hire a handyman. Step 2, pretend something's broken. Step 3, seduce him while he's fixing it. You need therapy, I said, setting my glass down. He grinned. Or maybe I'm onto something. We both burst out laughing, the absurdity of the situation finally hitting us. But then he flipped to the back of the diary and froze. Wait, he said, his voice dropping. There's a list. A list? Yeah, names. Look. He handed me the diary, and sure enough, there it was, a list of first names scrawled in shaky handwriting. Who do you think these people are? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I frowned, scanning the names. Could be anything. Friends, neighbors, repairmen. Or lovers, he said dramatically. I rolled my eyes. Not everything is a soap opera, you know. But what if it is? He leaned closer, his eyes wide. What if these people are all connected somehow? What if they're the reason for the curse? There is no curse, I said firmly, closing the diary. But the dripping is probably just bad plumbing, I interrupted. And if you're so worried about it, go grab a wrench and fix it yourself. He groaned, flopping onto his back with a dramatic sigh. You're no fun. And you watch too many movies. We sat in silence for a moment, the ridiculousness of the situation settling over us. Then, out of nowhere, he said, Do you think infidelity is contagious? I nearly choked on my wine. What? Well, like if someone in a house does it linger? Like a smell? You're unbelievable, I said, laughing despite myself. I'm serious. It's like second-hand smoke. You might not be the one lighting the cigarette, but you're still breathing it in. I shook my head, unable to stop laughing. You're comparing cheating to passive smoking now? It makes sense, he said, gesturing wildly. The vibes, the energy, it's all connected. You need to stop reading Reddit, I said, finishing my wine. He grinned. You're just mad because you know I'm right. Right about what? This house has secrets, he said, lowering his voice. And we're going to uncover all of them. Good luck with that, I said, sliding deeper into the bubbles. But as ridiculous as he was, I couldn't shake the feeling that he might be onto something. All right, he said, setting the diary down on the floor like it was sacred text. If we're going to break this curse, we have to do it right. We need to recreate the energy from the diary to cleanse the space. I stared at him, incredulous. You're joking. I'm dead serious, he replied, standing up and brushing bubbles off his pants. Energy lingers, right? So if we simulate what happened, we can neutralize it. Like reverse karma. This isn't a ghost hunting show, I said, shaking my head. Exactly. It's more serious. We're dealing with decades of built-up betrayal energy. Do you want your bathtub to keep dripping onto my computer? Do you want the house to collapse in a flood of bad vibes? I rolled my eyes. Fine. What's your genius plan? He grinned, already flipping through the diary. We recreate the key moments. Let's start with the easiest one. He lit candles, and the flicker of the flames reflected the fire in my heart. I groaned. You want to light candles in a bathroom? That's your big fix? Not just candles, he said, pulling out his phone. We need the whole ambience. Candles, dim lights, maybe some romantic music. This is insane, I muttered, but he was already running out of the bathroom to grab supplies. Minutes later, he returned with half-melted candles, a Bluetooth speaker, and inexplicably, a bag of rose petals. Where did you even get these? I asked, eyeing the petals. Leftovers from Valentine's Day, he said, setting up the scene with all the enthusiasm of a party planner. You realize this is ridiculous, right? Ridiculous would be ignoring the problem and letting the curse fester. Or, I said, leaning back in the tub, ridiculous could be lighting flammable objects next to water and thinking it'll solve a plumbing issue. He ignored me, arranging the candles on the edge of the tub. He dimmed the bathroom lights, and suddenly, the room looked like the setting for a low-budget romance movie. Perfect, he said, stepping back to admire his work. Now we need dialogue. Dialogue? Yeah, like in the diary. Something passionate, something forbidden. You know, to match the energy. I burst out laughing. You've officially lost it. Come on, he said, sitting on the edge of the tub. Just say something dramatic. Like, I've never felt this way before. I snorted. No. Fine, I'll start. He cleared his throat, putting on a terrible fake accent. Oh, Gerald, your wrench isn't the only thing that's hard. I choked on my laugh, nearly spilling water over the edge of the tub. Stop! You're going to kill me. See? You're getting into it, he said, grinning. Your turn. This is absurd, I said, shaking my head. Absurdly effective, he countered, holding out the diary like a script. I sighed, grabbing it from him. Fine. But if we burn the house down, I'm blaming you. Deal. I skimmed the diary for a suitable line, settling on one that wasn't completely ridiculous. I told myself I wouldn't let it happen again, but the way he touched the faucet. I couldn't finish. The sheer stupidity of it all had me doubled over with laughter. Hey, no breaking character, he said, trying to stay serious but failing miserably. You're the one who started with the wrench line. I shot back, tears streaming down my face. We were laughing so hard we didn't notice the first candle tipping over until the smoke detector went off. Crap! He shouted, scrambling to blow out the candles. I grabbed a towel, trying to wave the smoke away from the detector. This is why we don't light things in the bathroom. I thought it would add to the vibe, he yelled, frantically trying to mute the speaker that had inexplicably started playing smooth jazz. By the time we got everything under control, the bathroom was a mess. Water had sloshed over the edge of the tub, rose petals were stuck to the floor, and the candles were a melted disaster. Well, that was a success, I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. It was a minor setback, he said, straightening up. We still have more entries to recreate. Oh no, I said, holding up a hand. We're done. No more candlelit seances, no more ridiculous lines, and definitely no more rose petals. But we're so close, he protested. Close to burning the house down. I shot back. He sighed, flopping down on the floor. Fine. But don't blame me if the curse gets worse. There is no curse, I said, reaching for my wine. He smirked. Keep telling yourself that. Despite everything, I couldn't help but laugh. The sheer absurdity of it all was too much. And as ridiculous as he was, I had to admit, he made a pretty convincing case, if only for the entertainment value. By the time we'd cleaned up the chaos, I was ready to end the so-called investigation. But he wasn't done. Sitting cross-legged on the bathroom floor, he flipped through the diary with a determined look, muttering to himself like a detective piecing together a cold case. You know, I said, drying off and wrapping a towel around myself. Normal people would just call a plumber. Plumbers can't fix what's broken here, he said, holding up the diary. This is about more than pipes. It's about closure. Resolution. Healing the wounds of the past. Or we could just patch the leak and move on with our lives, I suggested. You're missing the point, he said, jabbing a finger at a page. This house has a history. A legacy. We're part of it now. Great. Can we opt out? He ignored me, reading aloud again. March 4th. I watched him work, the muscles in his arms rippling as he tightened the bolts. My resolve melted like snow in spring. He looked up, grinning. You have to admit, this is kind of poetic. Poetic? I laughed. It's plumbing-themed erotica. It's more than that, he insisted. It's passion. Yearning. Forbidden love. It's a woman getting hot over a monkey wrench, I said, rolling my eyes. He grinned. Maybe we're overcomplicating things. What if the curse isn't about betrayal or bad energy? What if it's about unfulfilled desire? Oh, please don't start with this. No, think about it. He stood up, pacing the small bathroom. What if the dripping water is like a metaphor for the things left unsaid? The emotions bottled up? You've been watching too much late-night TV, I said, shaking my head. He spun around, pointing dramatically at me. You don't think it's weird? The timing? The diary shows up just as the leak starts. Coincidence? I think not. It's absolutely a coincidence, I said, but even I could hear the doubt in my voice. He smirked. You're starting to believe it, aren't you? Not even a little. Then why haven't you called a plumber? I paused, realizing I didn't have a good answer. Because I've been too busy babysitting you. Admit it, he said, leaning against the sink. You're curious. You want to know what really happened here. I sighed. Fine. What's your grand theory? He grinned, clearly relishing the attention. It's simple. This house holds memories. The diary is the key. If we can figure out what the last entry means, we'll know how to break the curse. And what does the last entry say? He flipped to the final page, his expression growing serious. April 15th. He fixed the leak, but I broke the promise. I told myself it would be the last time, but when he stood there, dripping and smiling, I couldn't resist. Now I have to live with what I've done. We both stared at the page, the air in the room growing uncomfortably still. Okay, I said finally. That's creepy. Right? He said, his voice barely above a whisper. But it doesn't prove anything, I added quickly. It's just a diary. Probably some bored housewife with too much time on her hands. Or, he said, his voice low and dramatic, it's a warning. A warning? Yeah. Like, don't let history repeat itself. Don't make the same mistakes. Are you seriously suggesting that we're part of some cosmic love triangle? He shrugged. Stranger things have happened. Name one. Aliens, he said without missing a beat. I burst out laughing. You're impossible. And you love it, he said, grinning. I rolled my eyes but couldn't help smiling. As ridiculous as it all was, there was something oddly comforting about his enthusiasm. Maybe it was the way he threw himself into it, completely unbothered by how absurd he looked. Or maybe it was just the fact that, for the first time in weeks, the house didn't feel so quiet. "All right, detective," I said, standing up and tossing him a towel. "What's next on your agenda?" He caught the towel, his grin widening. "Next, we test a theory. If the curse is tied to betrayal, we need to create a situation where trust is restored. And how do you propose we do that?" He thought for a moment, then snapped his fingers. "We make a pact. A symbolic gesture of trust." "A pact?" I repeated, skeptical. "Yeah. Something simple but meaningful. Like, we promise not to keep secrets from each other. Or we swear to always fix leaks before they become a problem." I laughed. "Fine. I promise to tell you if I ever hire a plumber for non-plumbing purposes. And I promise not to let my gaming setup get ruined by mysterious leaks," he said solemnly. "Deal." We shook hands, the absurdity of the moment not lost on either of us. And for the first time that night, the sound of dripping water stopped. We both froze, staring at the faucet. "No way," he whispered. "It's probably just coincidence," I said quickly. "Or," he said, grinning, "we broke the curse." I rolled my eyes. "You're unbelievable." "Admit it," he said, smirking. "You're a little impressed." "Not even a little." But as I left the bathroom, I couldn't help glancing back at the faucet. Maybe it was just the wine, or maybe his ridiculous enthusiasm was contagious, but for a split second, I wondered if he might be right.